Alright, here's something interesting. The National Canine Research Council reports that the actor Ving Rhames, the dogs are not guilty of killing their caretaker, and the media is guilty of creating the news instead of reporting it. This happened back in 2007, within hours after the discovery of the body of Mr. Adams on Ving Rhames' California property. The media was quick to release hundreds of speculative, inaccurate, and sensationalized stories proclaiming Mr. Adams was killed or mauled to death by the dogs. Ironically, some of the media now shamelessly insinuate that Mr. Rhames, the owner of the dogs, is being injudicious in his released statement containing his condolences to the family of Mr. Adams and the preliminary findings of the LA coroner's office. So basically, the media was saying that Mr. Rhames didn't really care. The media regularly traffics in rumor and accusation, putting entertainment and sensationalism ahead of the truth and accuracy, purposely ignoring or manipulating facts which would lessen the dramatic effect of the story, which is true. All of us should agree. Here's the timeline of the death reported at the Ving Rhames' house. August 3rd, 2007. 4-year-old Mr. Adams was found dead on the property of the actor with 4 dogs nearby. August 3rd through 6th. Over the next 4 days, 400 plus media sources covered this story. Over 300 reported as fact that the human was either killed or mauled to death by the dogs. Less than 1/4 of the media sources were responsible enough to report that the dogs were suspected of killing Mr. Adams. August 7th, 4 days after the death, an autopsy was performed by the LA County coroner. Preliminary results of the autopsy found that the dogs did not cause the death of Mr. Adams. The injuries were determined to be superficial and not sufficient to cause his death. August 8th, 5 days after the death. Prior to the autopsy, 300 plus media sources reported the dogs caused the death of Mr. Adams, yet only 2 newspapers, the LA Canyon and the Globe, reported the results of the autopsy that determined the initial media reported cause of death was not accurate, and Mr. Adams was not killed by the dogs. The fact that Ving Rhames' dogs did not cause the death of Mr. Adams continues to be a non-event, and no media sources report. August 14th, Ving Rhames releases a respectful and factual statement as to the death of his friend and the alleged involvement of his dogs. Mr. Rhames quotes the preliminary autopsy findings that the dogs were not responsible for the death and offers his condolences to the family of Mr. Adams. Approximately 34 media sources reported the statement, despite the fact that August 7th autopsy disproves virtually all 300 plus news stories claiming the dogs killed Mr. Adams. And even more astounding is the accusation by some in the media that Rhames' statement is imprudent or speculative, as demonstrated by the following headlines. Ving Rhames clears dogs before officials. He assumes his dogs are innocent. He solves dogs attack case before official report, and he jumps to a conclusion in dog attack